Michele is an attorney and civil litigator with over 20 years of experience. Today we will learn how she balances the scales of justice, having had humble beginnings here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Good morning, Michele. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. About your keynote address at the 33rd CFBC commencement ceremony held in March of this year, and particularly how it came about. What can you tell us?
How did it come about? The short story is that a few years ago, students from my former primary school and high school, the St. Teresa's Convent School, we all got together through a tragedy. We all lost a very beloved teacher, Mrs. Orly Buchanan. And since her passing, my classmates have all maintained contact with each other. And one of my classmates is Miss Alicia Daniel and Corinne Phipps. And I got to talking to Corinne one day about how I could contribute. I was interested in contributing in the development of our young people. And my friend Corinne suggested to me that I reach out to some folks at CSFB, and I spoke to them, and they invited me to deliver the commencement speech. So it's really through connections and a willingness to contribute to the development of our young people.
And that's good because you're actually on connections. Just like that.
Yes.
So were you in the Federation for this speech, or did you do it via Zoom?
No, I did it actually from my office here in New York, and worked on the speech. And I thought about what I would want to hear if I were sitting in the audience that many years ago, what I would want to hear someone say to me that could inspire me to not only reach to higher heights, but I wanted also to talk about the real challenges and the bumps you meet along the way. And once you meet those bumps, what's the mechanism you use for overcoming them? And that's a human skill, right? Regardless of what walk of life you engage in, it's a really key human skill, and I wanted to speak to that. And hopefully, I imparted some wisdom and was able to inspire some students on that day.
Well, I'm certain, given the passion that you have for helping young people, I'm certain that you did. As a matter of fact, we have a clip, and we're going to take a look at it now.
Several decades ago, I sat just as you do now, with my own broad stroke plans of becoming an attorney, and without a real clue as to how to make that happen. I grew up on Central Street in McKnight, and attended what was then called St. Teresa's Convent School. Many years later, I would sit in a room as big as a football field in the heart of New York City and take the New York State Bar exam with thousands of other candidates in order to become an attorney in New York. An exam that lasts all day for 2 days. And it was those parts of me that were rooted in my treasured experience of growing up on these beautiful shores, watching my mother scrub clothes on a washboard, and going with her to the market on Saturday mornings, pitching marble with my brothers and sisters in the backyard, listening to my beloved school principal teach Shakespeare under a tree at convent school. It was those experiences that gave me the confidence to know that I could do it. Embrace all of who you are. Take with you all of it. And whether you remain in the Federation and become a part of the fabric of the society, or go off to some distant shore, Let your Kittitian and Nevisian pride shine strong in everything that you do. Embrace all of
So,
who you are.
Michele, we got a glimpse. We got to hear, as if we were in the audience back then when you gave that speech, those gems. And there were two, in fact, that I'd like you to elaborate on now. The first is, of course, to put God first. And the second is to let the richness of growing up in the Federation strengthen your esteem. All right, in terms of elaborating on those two gems for the audience, what can you tell us by way of summary that you included in your speech?
Well, the first thing, and that's based on my own faith, that I embrace in every aspect of my life, including my professional life. You put God first, right? So whatever decision you're going to make, you pray about it. An opportunity opens up. Should I take this job? There's always this fork in the road, you know. Should I migrate? Should I leave the comfort of my 68 square mile island and move on to a shore that I have no clue about? These things you bring to God in prayer. And I you know, I'm not using this as an opportunity to preach, really, but just to share the significance and importance of my faith to me in my walk and in my development, not only as a professional attorney, but as a human being and as a mother. All those facets of me work. In fact, before I came on here this morning, I said a little prayer and said, Lord, Holy Spirit, partner with me and let me just use the words that represents who I am as a human being, but as also a child of God and representing his kingdom, which is what I consider myself doing, whether it's, you know, taking care of my daughter or coming into work and being a civil litigator and being excellent at that, you know. So put God first. And so that really is the foundation of who I am. And I wanted to express that and to share that. And the other thing is I wanted to talk about, embracing your the richness of our heritage as Kittitians and Nevisians, right? So often, and I think I was guilty of that too, growing up in the Caribbean, growing up in St. Kitts. You are surrounded with this richness and this beauty, and you have this value system that's in place in your home, in your school environment, and you're so accustomed to it, you kind of take it for granted. And then when you travel and you see that those values, that beauty, that richness is not necessarily everywhere. And it may be that it's not that you're saying that someplace else is not rich, but that richness is different, right? And we tend to want to sort of maybe distance ourselves in a way that, because you're in this huge melting pot now. For me, it was New York. You're in an environment where there's so many different people, and you may be inclined to think that who I am is so small and so insignificant. But I'm saying actually the reverse is true. The reverse is true, and draw from that, you know, embrace all of it. I wanted to talk so much about my mother and what she meant to me as a young girl. And it's what's poignant about my story since February is that quite literally the day after that speech was aired, my mother passed away. And I was so happy that I had the opportunity to honor her in a very public way through that speech, because my mother, she didn't have much, you know. She didn't have the most formidable of upbringing, but she had this this strength of character, this commitment to integrity that she raised her children with, that I don't think is peculiar to my mother. I wanted to impart that to the young people who were listening to me, that you're from good stock, you know. Just recently, I was thinking about, when I was practicing in St. Kitts, one of who I thought I had such respect for him, as one of the leading legal minds, Mr. Leo Moore, who I know has passed away. But he was, from what I remember, the son of a cane cutter, you know, and he rose to such high heights, you know, and so this good stock, this formidable strength, this commitment to taking care of your family and your children that I saw in my mother, and that hopefully she imparted to me. I wanted to express to the students who are listening to me, don't take that for granted.
Okay.
And wherever you go, take it with you, because it informs who you are.
Michele, I see you are a partner in Rosario Tuma, PC. Tell us about your experience climbing that ladder.
It's not a linear one. I joined Rosario Tumo just over 2 years ago. Okay. And within 1 year, I made partner, which I'm very proud of. Rosario Tumo is a law firm in the financial district in New York. It was started by Rovin Rosario, who was born in Guyana and moved to the United States when he was a young boy. And so we shared that heritage of having Caribbean roots. And we hit it off at the interview, and I came in, and we're sort of in this firm building together. There are very many facets to our practice, but my practice is civil litigation. So I do a lot of insurance defense. I'm in court a lot, and labor and employment. I'm actually chair of the labor and employment division. So we're in court often. We represent very many public authorities. We do largely defense work. So we're not a plaintiff's firm. We do defense work. So we defend public authorities, corporations that have been sued in one respect or another. And I practice in both state and federal court here in New York.
Well, Michele, we know that you are an alumnus of the University of the West Indies. We also know that you returned to the Federation and worked as Crown Counsel before migrating to New York. So if you can, what can you share with us about any transference of skills? Because we know that the situation is a little different. New York versus Caribbean, the legal system, and your training even, how that was informed.
Yes, I think what I alluded to before, I think we all, in whatever walk of life we engage in, you have a decision what kind of human being you're going to show up as every day. So what I would say transfers from St. Kitts from practicing law in St. Kitts to practicing law in the United States is the decision of the kind of attorney you're going to be. So on a throughout your career, you will have very many opportunities where, again, a fork in the road. Do you go this way or that way in terms of, do you act with integrity? Do you speak the truth? Can you win speaking the truth? And I believe you can, and I've proven that you can. So that transfers the ability to incorporate into your practice a certain level of integrity and the kind of practice that you want to build. That transfers, and your legal skills transfer, right? Your power of deduction, your analytical skills, they transfer. What doesn't transfer is, even though you can bring a certain level of analytical skills, what doesn't transfer is the law, because the law in New York is very different from the law in St. Kitts. So you have to be a student and be humble enough to go back to the drawing board and learn as best you can, and to not only learn, but to conquer it. And I think again, with God at the helm of everything that I do, I think I managed to do that, and bring a certain not only forthrightness and integrity, but a commitment to building up our practice as one that's formidable, give great defense work, but also do it with a certain standard of excellence and integrity.
Wonderful, Michele.
Hello?
Michele, before we go, do you have any advice for aspiring lawyers?
That you can do it. If this is what you want to do, you can do it. You have to love it.
Okay.
You have to work hard at it. Yes, a lot of it is talent, but with the talent, you have to put in the work. Excellence should be your standard. If this is what you want to take on, it should be your standard. Dotting your I's and crossing your T's is very important. And your gift, it makes room for you. But once you're in the room, you want to bring with that a certain level of excellence and take that wherever you go. So that would be, and for the women attorneys, what I would say, embrace all of who you are. You don't have to become you don't have to let go of your femininity to be good at this. You can embrace your being a woman, being